It must be fate. On fate, destiny, and the unfolding of things. When I tried to make sense of the series of events in my life, what stuck was fate. It was easy for me, hopping from one worldview of Catholicism and God's will to the one of predestinarian universe, where everything serves a purpose. Same thing, different looks, still a wolf in sheep's clothes. Fate is the predetermined unraveling of time in our lives, implying through its very definition there's a plan to all of this. Like God had a notion page, a corporate flow chart on how things ought to turn out, is often used interchangeably with destiny, though destiny has a personal quality where agency plays a role in how it comes about. Destiny is where we end up, more focused on choices, whereas fate is a complex design, an organization of things. When confronted with the reality of life, which is that we only have so much control, and our animal brain, which is incredibly attracted to mastery, we wind up with the human proclivity to invent comfort. We say the unfolding of time and events is the result of a natural order, chosen by someone with more or all information, one fixed to the fabric of existence. It helps us loosen up, regret less, and frankly become way more tolerable to our circumstances. There's no point in hitting a wall over and over again. The least we can do is find meaning for why we should let go. We've gone so far as the invention of myth, where we've built the Parsi in Roman mythology, Moirai in Greek, and Norns in Norse, each of which uses thread spinning to represent fate. We think of time as linear and well attached. Fate is that out of control bit, the part where we wave the proverbial white flag and surrender. It's the whole shebang, the beginning, middle, end, that tells us we're here based on the will of the universe or aliveness or whatever force you decide. Destiny is that our choices brought us here. And somewhere on the depressing side is fate and the idea of fatalism, the ability to express human agency, but it means absolutely nothing. We can't alter our fates. Bummer. In the middle, but more experientially neutral, we have Ming Yun, the concept of destiny in Chinese folk religion. Ming means life or right, Yun means circumstance. There's room for decision making here, for influence. Some thinkers say fate is bogus, but they say it politely enough and suggest that we see patterns and mistake them for predetermined outcomes. Carl Jung offers that what is fate to us is really just unconscious patterns becoming conductors to our lives. To him, we wrongfully attribute a pattern of coincidence to luck or misfortune. Imagine getting stuck talking to that guy at a party. But really, it is important to question fate as it has implications beyond its mirage. When we speak of fate, we give personhood to the universe, or we at least grant it enough intelligence for it to plan. Whether it is your God or the cosmos, we have awarded what I call universal intent. There's reasoning, decisions that have been made. It is no longer random. This might sound insignificant, but the concept of a foreordained universe is made important by the role of pre-described happening. There is something fundamental about how our lives unfold that begins to hold a purpose and is not ours to decide. It is the will of another, a conceptually thoughtful thing. This was the attractive one. A quick transfer from God's plan to the universe knows best is evidence still of a surrendering to a greater power. Don't get me wrong, humans are not the greatest entity, but complete surrender is always worth challenging. We mustn't begin to confuse fate with determinism, another conclusion much like fatalism but with a different path. Determinism is the unfolding of things through the lens of cause and effect. Our decisions are based on the dominoes that fall around us. All that seems random is actually caused by influence. It is different than fate in that it holds no universal intent. No force is prescribing our outcomes. The core issue with fate is that it contradicts free will. If we operate under the assumption of fate entirely, our future is predetermined and anything we do is virtually meaningless. Under fatalism, we say fuck free will, and our view of chosen behavior becomes an illusion. Historically, we have folks like St. Augustine who wrestled with the concurrent realities of omniscient foreknowledge and the human capacity to make genuine and impactful choices. It is an important question to explore as religion shapes some 75% of human lives on Earth, much of which subscribe to the religion's harping on predeterminism. One of my greatest qualms with fate is that we often stumble upon the idea that perhaps we are doomed. We see people in our lives who struggle endlessly, sometimes to the point of death, disease, houselessness. We ask ourselves where things went wrong, if this was meant to happen. Is this God's plan? Now I must ask you, do you really think suffering is meant to happen? We can and should explore the question of fate through the lens of suffering because suffering seems like a human thing to do. It appears intrinsic to the realities of the human condition. Some part of our species is perceivably corrupt and a larger portion suffers from it. Beyond that, we have illness, grief and desire, but let's keep it to the topic of structural or social suffering just for this conversation. If we abandon the influence of choice, we too abandon the opportunity to condemn those who morally fail, that is, those who choose greed over altruism, those who use hatred to retain the upper hand. Personally, I refuse to believe the fabric of the universe or God is embedded with this aim, that the grievances associated with capitalism, patriarchy, white supremacy, etc., are consequences of cosmic decision making. These are human choices with historical roots, thousands of years of human decisions that brought us here. So, Carl, you were right about the patterns this time. As we explore the concept, I think the buzzkills of the party are going to totally toss aside fate as it holds a mythical element that empiricism just doesn't like. But humans seek purpose, and sometimes it's nice to view life as a thing with inherent significance and narrative coherence. It also means some restoration of faith in humanity. I vehemently believe that when met with the reality of our choices, most people would do the right thing. We have to find some middle ground, some state where we can admit that we have linearity to our brief lives that do reveal purpose, that our contexts influence our decisions, and that these decisions are valuable in their effect. When I was in high school, I read a famous quote attributed to the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru. He said, "Life is like a game of cards. The hand you're dealt is determinism. The way you play it is free will." We can begin to view our lives as relatively confined contexts from which we are handed, but we have agency to make something of this. We have our fate, we have our plays that get us there. Frederick God is Dead Nietzsche viewed fate entirely differently, instead looking at fate as the entirety of our lives unfolded, with or without universal intent. It is housed in part in his concept of eternal return, a thought exercise which asks us if we had to live our lives in the same way again for eternity, would we? The goal of the exercise is not fostering discomfort by forcefully choosing our regrets again and again, but finding a way to love our life as it unfolded and as it continues to unfold. Amor fati, he calls it. It's the love of one's fate. The Stoics were the first to claim the phrase amor fati, but the guy that everyone thinks is depressing, but is actually incredibly optimistic to me, is the one who championed it. It's a concept of embrace, purpose, and allowance. All things become necessary to our existence through it. It does become complicated because the admiration of our lives, even the most repellent of our lives, is still not enough to change anything. We have to love it knowing that our love is no force for control. This is the most difficult part. Now, how the hell did we end up back at determinism? Well, it's because you can only believe one half the time. It serves you better to oscillate between the belief of determinism and the one that our decisions matter because we have no proof going either way. We don't know if our lives have meaning because we're talking about abstractions, conceptual meat on the metaphorical bone of the universe. We know cause and effect, and we can value agency as a meaningful pursuit. Still, we don't know if the actions we take fall in or out of the will of the universe. But I do know this. Life is not prescribed damnation, doom, or suffering. There is no inherent meaning in the script of the cosmos that reads as if we must succumb. It serves us poorly to believe this on Earth. It prevents us from helping people, from adding cards to their decks, from using the cards we have to make plays that change the game. We begin our apathetic spiral of the belief that nothing we do matters, but it does, and we should know that to be true. Overall, I guess we can wonder if free will is what brought you here to read or listen to this final thought on meaning and destiny. We can ask, what if God had willed it? Well, then it must be fate.